Hello and welcome to another edition of the Schmozcast. I am your host, Anthony Deneau, here in the studio with Andre. How are we doing, Andre?
I am doing absolutely wonderful.
Absolutely. So let's talk about what we have going on today on this week for this week's show. We are going to talk about things that happened on Raw and SmackDown. We're going to talk about a major broken issue on Monday Night Raw.
A woken issue
now, you'd say. We're going to talk about NXT and their future next week and beyond. We're going to bring up the main event for this week's show is, of course, best matches of 2017. Is 2017 over? No, it is not. So we're going to give you that so far. And if we have some updates when we get into the Schmozzies, the first week of 2018, then we will do so. But first things first, Monday Night Raw. Something huge happened that you've been calling for a long time, and it finally came to fruition. So you want to tell us a little bit about that? And
absolutely.
We'll get more into that in a second. Go ahead.
Yes. Christmas came early for me because the debut of Woken Matt Hardy in WWE is official, as he was attacked 2 weeks ago not attacked. He had a match 2 weeks ago with Bray Wyatt, which, by the way, Matt Hardy, Woken Matt Hardy, as he's going to be called in WWE for reasons only so that, WWE can keep the name. But I mean, that's not going to affect anything, as it looked like on Monday with the dueling promo between him and Bray Wyatt, because he lost a match to Bray Wyatt 2 weeks ago. Started to show the most since like last Monday, the most
signs,
direct broken universe / woken universe signs with the delete chant. And then in a house show, WWE retweeted and put on Facebook a video from a house show where he started doing the delete chant and then raised his hands to the sky and screamed and stuff, and did the yes backstage. And the loss to Bray Wyatt catapulted that, and it was really cool to see that because this is what I've been clamoring for, not just him in WWE, but him against Bray Wyatt, because it is that promo. I was like I said, it was like Christmas to me. I was so happy. I legit had a smile on my face as I was watching that promo. It was everything that I was hoping for. The difference, they're similar, but they're different. There's so much they can do with these two characters. I'm ecstatic to see what's going to happen, man.
So, and this really is a culmination of really something we've never really seen before. A storyline that started in TNA, goes to Ring of Honor, all these other, regional promotions where they're winning tag team gold all over the place with
the Expedition of Gold.
Exactly, and it basically. I mean, it sort of ended but began at WrestleMania, and it's something like we've never seen before. Because can you give us the lead up going from
Absolutely.
Last summer? So, and what made Broken Matt Hardy such a big deal, especially for TNA, a struggling company, but really was driven by Broken Matt Hardy and Brother Nero, and the final deletion that was, for wrestling fans at least, a viral video, and continued on with something we haven't seen since April, but is still such a huge deal. So there's a lot of buildup, but can you give us kind of a rundown of how the steps to that got us to at least WrestleMania, and then we'll take it from there.
Absolutely. So Broken Matt Hardy, as he was known in TNA, happened when he feuded with his brother Jeff. Jeff hit him with a swanton bomb from a very high distance. I can't remember if it was a ladder or a stage area of some kind, but Matt was laying on a guardrail that was laid over two other objects so that the guardrail made like a, table. And he did a swanton bomb and landed on him, and Matt Hardy, that started the broken phase where he slowly kind of developed. But it wasn't until like the final deletion where the broken universe really took off and where he really started to get his character built. He went on several podcasts, stayed in character, kept kayfabe alive. The feud with his brother turned into a coalition where Jeff Hardy became Brother Nero and joined his brother, and they chased the tag team gold because the seven deities who control Matt Hardy, who tell him what to do, they told both of them to, get every single championship in all the promotions. And they did that. They went to various indie promotions, won all their tag team championships, won the Ring of Honor tag team championships, lost it the day before WrestleMania, showed up at WrestleMania, won the tag team championships, and that was essentially the end of that. That's the Reader's Digest version, but that was the end of that storyline. And then he kind of just did the nostalgia act with the Hardy Boys until Bray Wyatt woke the primal passenger within Matt Hardy. And WWE is using the Woken name just so they can keep the name. If Matt were ever to leave, Matt can use the Broken name based on the statement from Impact. But even though they're using it just so they can keep the name, it kind of works because he was broken when he feuded with his brother. The seven deities wanted him to get together. This is all kayfabe, of course, but it works in the storyline.
You mean he doesn't know that he's... Does he know
anyways,
he's not a pirate?
Anyways, that's neither here nor there. So in the storyline, they won the championship. They won every single tag team championships, culminating in the Raw Tag Team Championship at WrestleMania up until recently, I would think. Actually, I don't know, but it was the most viewed YouTube video of the year. It still might be their debut at WrestleMania. And that makes sense that he wouldn't be broken anymore because he fulfilled what the 70 deities asked of him. But now that he's been losing a little bit, he lost his brother to an injury. He lost a match to Bray Wyatt, who him and Broken Matt feuded on Twitter before they could even step into the ring with each other. It makes sense that he's no longer broken, but he's now woken, and he's still going to show the same signs. And, based on Sports Illustrated, it sounds like he's going to get to be in control of his character for the most part.
Which is pretty spectacular. This is unlike anything we've ever seen in terms of a storyline that starts in TNA or outside of the WWE, goes to all these other places, regional promotions, and then also some of the top four. If you're counting WWE, you'd say that Ring of Honor, TNA, and New Japan, and then Lucha Underground would be, those would be the top five. And he went to two of those four, won those tag team titles, in addition to the regional promotions.
And in Mexico, too, he won for Crash.
And then, again, wins the gold at WrestleMania. The night before, they had lost the gold to the Young Bucks. Is that?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it was in Florida. That's what Ring of Honor likes to do, is put a big event the same weekend at WrestleMania to pull in some fans, which makes sense. It really is a really good marketing strategy for them. But for something to go beyond WWE but end there, and then also now with the lawsuit and everything and the way that WWE has set up the character and the rights to Matt Hardy, it doesn't have to end. Suppose that something happens, he gets dropped from WWE or whatever, a wellness suspension, which is unlikely but still a possibility. He can still run this and go back to Ring of Honor and do that. And be broken. And it doesn't matter. He can continue this. And
if it, I just want to jump in, if it does get to that point, which I don't think, because the article says that the reason why Vince is letting someone do what he's never let them do before with a character that isn't developed in WWE, which is unheard of for Vince, is because he has trust in Matt from working. The article specifically states that the source said from working with Matt Hardy for 20 plus years, he sees the opportunity, and he sees the opportunity for money. But what I originally wanted to point out, or wanted to make before I went on that, is if he were to somehow get cut or whatever from WWE and goes to the indie scenes, he would be character-wise broken again since he's not at the top anymore. So it makes perfect sense. He's in a great spot. And kudos to Anthem. I don't know if it was Jeff Hardy leaving or Jeff Jarrett leaving or what, but they did a 180 and let all their past characters use their gimmicks is what it sounds like. Kudos to them. I was boycotting them because of the Matt Hardy stuff, but not anymore. Props to them for doing that. It might have been a little better late than never, we'll put it that way.
And TNA has gone, whatever you want to call them now.
Anthem.
Yeah, God. Impact Wrestling, whatever.
Yeah.
They've had so much bad publicity really since they started, but the last few years have been unbelievable, and it's like they're just really living on the edge and holding on by a string. But this is a good move for them, and they've done so many takeoffs or carryover gimmicks that they've tried from or taking shots at WWE. So I think that this was the right move, and for once they look good for doing this and having had that happen. Because if I'm an indie wrestler and I hear what TNA has done now, or Impact,
you're not going to want to go for that, play for them, go perform for them, work for them. Right,
but if I hear that if I do something really great there, that I can either carry it in and then bring it out afterwards. So I'm not like, okay, if I sign for a 1-year contract and I'm awesome in this year, I've got this great gimmick that all of a sudden I'm allowed to use outside of that, I'm much more likely to want to use TNA or Impact to get my name out there, because I know that when that contract is over, I'm going to come out smelling like roses, and I don't have to stop the things that made me so important.
Absolutely. And when I said I wouldn't want to work for them, what I meant was if I couldn't keep my gimmick. But now that you can,
And they've done so much stuff, whether it be, the Voodoo Kin Mafia, VKM, making fun of Vincent Kennedy McMahon, or it's Eric Young doing the Daniel Bryan gimmick, basically, or their version of Daniel Bryan. And those are two examples of either taking shots at WWE or using their gimmicks that it really goes on. And anyone who all of a sudden isn't a contracted WWE superstar, Impact seems to go after right away, like, oh, they've got the, if you will, Vince McMahon dust, and they want to use that in their favor. So I'm a big fan of this happening the way it is. And now it's been 8 months since we've seen Broken Matt Hardy, since they debuted at WrestleMania, or re-debuted, if you will. And so this is a huge deal. And he's had this much time to hopefully get the ideas of what he wants to do. Okay, when I am broken, this is what I'll do. And I like the way that it happened. That was kind of a losing streak. I want to say in the last 2 weeks, Matt Hardy was facing Kurt Hawkins on WWE Superstars. When's the last time you watched the WWE Superstars match?
Never.
And because it's basically irrelevant. And I should look whether or not he won or lost that match. But if you're facing Kurt Hawkins,
he probably won, because it would have been a huge deal
if Kurt Hawkins won.
Yeah,
as opposed to the other way around, right? So
I think it was perfect though. It worked out perfect. And the pop that he got every time, because it was a dueling promo, every time Matt Hardy's face came on the screen, they popped. And that last little laugh off, it was perfect. They went like one segment too long, which was perfect, which is exactly what it should have done. You know what I mean? It was perfect.
Almost like the Austin Powers creepy laugh, like that of the segment that just goes on way too long, and they're sitting there like with their evil laughters.
Yep. And the promo between them was the perfect example of what I'm looking forward to seeing between these two, and that is the similar yet different aspects of their characters. They're both supernatural in a sense. They're both a little dark, but Bray Wyatt is very serious, whereas Matt Hardy is more kind of parody satire, but I don't know how to describe. It's completely different, but it's perfect because they're two like crazy or psychopathic characters that are, lost in their own worlds, that are going to be going against each other, and it's going to be really fun. They can stretch it out. I'm looking forward to seeing them in the ring, but I'm also looking forward to seeing compound matches. Like the first, you can have Royal Rumble be the first match of them not on WWE TV, as far as not in the ring, I should say, sorry, and have that be at the Wyatt compound, and then WrestleMania can be at the Hardy compound. Or, I mean, you got to get him in the ring at WrestleMania. But you can do... I'm thinking as I'm talking, but you can do so much with these two characters. I'm excited. Probably not making any sense because I'm giddy. Like I said, I was laughing when... in my room, giggling, laughing when Matt Hardy showed up finally and did the yes. I was waiting for it. It was incredible. I can't wait to see what they're doing, and I'm sure we're going to have plenty of things to talk about with him based on him having a relative creative control over the portrayal of his character.
The next time that we'll get a Monday Night Raw pay-per-view will be the Royal Rumble in late January on the 28th in Philadelphia. There's no better spot to do it. I know last year was kind of like the 20th year anniversary. They did it at the Alamo Dome. I love the Rumble at Philadelphia. To me, it's if I had to choose a place,
perfect crowd.
I would go Philadelphia, and then I would go Chicago second, and then maybe Boston or MSG for my Royal Rumble picks. But those are
Toronto's a great town.
Toronto's a great one too. But also my favorite Royal Rumble 2000 was in MSG, so that's another, I guess
was that
a little hint there.
Which one was 2000?
2000 is Taz's debut against Kurt Angle. You have The Rock won the Royal Rumble, and
was that with
Triple
Big
H,
Show with the controversy?
Triple H versus Cactus Jack in a street fight for the championship, which was an amazing match. Also, the Hardys versus Dudleys in a table match, another great match. That's why that pay-per-view to me is the best one all time.
Wow.
And then, of course, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but the cat and the bubble wrap and getting to see Mae Young's all in all her old glory. See what I did there? So, okay, is Royal Rumble too soon to have a... We're going to get Wyatt versus Hardy, I would imagine. And I want to see those two in a match outside of the Royal Rumble, but there are also two guys I wouldn't mind seeing in the Rumble. But is Rumble too soon to do a compound/final deletion type match?
Not at all, because, as you just said, they can do that, and they can both be in the Rumble. Because you can film that a day or two before, and then they can be fresh and be in the Rumble. So I think that would be a perfect...
How would you kayfabe it then?
There's
the Rumble
powers.
first? Okay.
No, the Rumble last. There's power. They could.
There's powers.
Did you forget? I don't know how much of the broken universe that we're going to get to see here. We're going to see what Matt Hardy's brain does for WWE. But I don't know if you remember, they could teleport with Vanguard 1. So you could see a match where them start. I don't know if WWE is going to go that far. I hope they do, because it's so over the top and so ridiculous that it's entertaining, and it's so funny, but in a good way. And it's bad, but it's bad in a good way. Not bad.
It's B-movie bad.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you. Yeah,
and it's fun. I like that. I think that's the way to go.
So I could see them having a match outside of the ring at one of the compounds, and then teleporting back there, and then going backstage, and then they can do the Rumble or something. I don't know.
So
they'll figure something out.
Couple things I want to get to for things they could add or that they had when in the former broken gimmick, which is now the woken gimmick. When Jeff Hardy returns, I think he will be Nero. Okay, I think that's the most likely thing to happen.
Absolutely.
Then, at what point do we get a Vanguard 2.0, like we used to have Matt Hardy
version 1?
Yeah, or do we get
Benjamin?
And then exactly like all these things? Do you see that happening, or do you think that obviously they'll have to cut some contracts with Hardy's wife and everything, but are those things that you see happening, or is that things that you add down the line when it maybe is stale or whatever?
I could see his wife being at WrestleMania playing the piano at his entrance like she would do for the big TNA pay-per-views, because that got over huge. Definitely I could see Brother Nero. I could see Jeff Hardy coming back as Brother Nero.
I think that one is the most likely to happen in my perspective.
There's also there's huge history with the Broken Hardys and Decay. Decay, most of them are in Impact still, but Crazy Steve is a free agent, and WWE has been looking at him for a while. When Jeff Hardy comes back, when Brother Nero comes back, Crazy Steve could be sidekick to Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt's a cult leader. He's going to bring someone from Matt Hardy's past. So, I mean, I'm hoping to see something like that. I would love to see Senior Benjamin, not in the arena, but in the outside of the arena video packages that they hopefully do at the Wyatt or at the Hardy compound, and hopefully at the Wyatt compound. And a part of me wants to, but I don't know how much it would hurt Bray Wyatt's character. But you know the Lake of Reincarnation, right? You know. So I would love to see them fighting at the Hardy compound and Bray Wyatt get accidentally dunked into the Lake of Reincarnation and come out for a brief second as Husky Harris before going back in and coming back out as Bray Wyatt. I don't know how they would accomplish that visually wise, because Husky Harris didn't have the hair and beard that Bray does, but I think that would be a great, little nugget for the smart marks like myself. But that would be what I'd like to see.
You are like a teenage girl at an
I told you, I
NSYNC
was
concert
giddy.
in
I was
2000.
giddy when Michael Cole started saying the Hardy Platoon, he started using all the terminology. I was like losing my mind. Broken Matt Hardy is probably my favorite character of all time. I mean, Shawn Michaels is my favorite wrestler, but my character that I love the most that's ever been done in wrestling is the Broken Hardy gimmick. So I'm just ecstatic, looking forward to seeing what he can do on the big stage in WWE in front of the world.
Okay, let's shift our attention to Bray Wyatt now.
Mm-hmm.
Is this the best thing that could happen to Bray Wyatt
Yes.
since winning the title at the Elimination Chamber?
Since then, yes.
If not longer?
Absolutely, because I could see at the end of this them coming together and being a team for a little while too. But I don't know. That's just fantasy booking. That's looking outward. As of right now, it is the best thing to happen to him because it was the most popular gimmick. The Broken Matt Hardy gimmick was the most popular thing in wrestling in 2016. It's still super over based on the crowd reaction, the YouTube views. It was at one point the 25th most viewed video on YouTube itself, and it became WWE's most viewed video of the week, obviously, on their YouTube channel. So it's the most over thing. Well, not the most over thing. I don't know. It's too early to tell, but it's one of the most over things in WWE right now, and it's going head to head with Bray Wyatt. And Matt Hardy is going to make Bray Wyatt look really good because Decay, everyone that's feuded with the broken gimmick, the broken Matt Hardy, whether they won or lost, came out looking better for it. So it's great for Bray. And I'm excited about that too because Bray is one of my favorites. And there was a specific line in the promo where he says, "I feel alive again," where it's like, that's really cool. I'm looking for, which I know it's kayfabe, but it's just really cool because he kind of needs something too. And this is the best thing that could happen to him other than winning another championship, of course. But
with Mania season basically upon us, do you want to see them go to Mania and then after Mania then put Hardy in a program with somebody else? Do you want to see it go the 4 to 5 months that we have?
If they do it right and they do both the compounds and they space it out, yeah, because that's something that you can build over time and you can do short little segments on Raw on every week and then culminate it at WrestleMania. And there's a lot you can do in that time frame.
Okay, so this is another thing that is interesting to me. A couple weeks ago, there was a Rolling Stone article with the Young Bucks and about basically what makes them so important without having gone to WWE, why they haven't, what is that a possibility, how they have run their social media, and a lot of it comes from what things that they learned from Matt Hardy when they were in TNA, and they give him so much credit for how smart he was. And if you want to think back to the SmackDown 6 era, the original brand split, it was Matt doing the version 1.0 like we talked about, that was the first person to use some of those. I mean, it wasn't social media at the time, but he was certainly ahead of the game in that character. And you go back, and at the time I was like, but now when I go back, I'm like, okay, he really did have a great mind for the business even at that time. And apparently he was the one who while Jeff is maybe given more like physical gifts in terms of, gymnasts and parkour goes, a lot of those ideas were Matt Hardy's, and the way the matches would go and things and spots were Matt Hardy's idea. Yep. And the better in-ring classic competitor, I guess, of the two, still Jeff Hardy's a future Hall of Famer, as we know. They could go in as a team or separate. But Matt was very much ahead of the game. And then 2010, 2011, he's in TNA. The Young Bucks are there. They said they learned so much of what they do from him at that time and have really just carried on through Twitter. And they talk about how a backstage incident with Booker T really set them on fire to what the characters that they are now, because they seemed like cocky jerks, and they thought, oh, that's us now. That's what we're gonna do. We're not gonna change. We're not gonna go on social media and say, "Hey guys, we're sorry or say sorry to Booker T or whatever." They just took it and ran. They're like, "This is the new us." And so a lot of credit has to go, I think, to Matt Hardy for doing that. But more on that article about what is important now, I think, is for those guys to see what Matt Hardy has done is something unlike no other, where he's carrying a storyline that is a year deep, or more so, and then involves all these different places and promotions. So do you think that gives the Young Bucks even more incentive, or some of these other guys? We're going to talk a lot about Kenny Omega or Okada later, but does that give some of these guys more incentive? Here's the other hand to that, or why don't you do that, and then I'll talk about the other hand of that. So is this more incentive for teams like the Young Bucks and other superstars that have never been to WWE to get them in and to give them the idea that, hey, if you do it right, that they're gonna let you do your thing?
Maybe. First of all, I just want to point out that the storyline is not years old; it's centuries old, technically.
Oh, sorry.
But maybe, like the Sports Illustrated article said, the reason Matt Hardy is given this freedom right now is because he has that trust with Vince. But then again, guys like New Day, they came up with their gimmick for the most part, and Vince has given them creative freedom as well. So I think so. Definitely. Because Matt Hardy, as you said, he's been ahead of the game, not just in the ring, but like society, social media, and what is popular among the in this point in time millennials, but the what's popular with the biggest purchasers or consumers is the word I'm looking for, and he's in tune with that. His broken/woken gimmick is basically a walking meme, and that's brilliant. Also,
I think the Jericho Kevin Owens, I feel like they were given more leeway to run it, and it's a little bit different when you have also a future Hall of Famer like Jericho, who's a part-timer, but he's really on another stratosphere of superstar.
The trust of
Vince. So and I think that has to do with it. But if you look around, maybe there's more incentive for some of these guys to come in. However, the other side of that would be like Gallows and Anderson. And I'm not saying they haven't given the chance to do what they want to do. I'm saying with the hype that came in with them, that maybe I would say they're not where they want to be. Is that a fair? They're doing Christmas commercials right now, and they're funny and entertaining, and some of the stuff they've done was really good, but it's kind of like they started here and did some okay things, but now they're not necessarily on pay-per-views. They might be on pre-shows. They're not always on Raw. They're not very important to the Monday Night Tag Team scene or division, and they're kind of like the opposite side of it. And those guys also former Bullet Club with the Young Bucks, so there's some connections there. So if you're the Young Bucks, are you looking at that and saying, well, is that gonna hold them back from going in? I mean, it's a weird dichotomy right now between Vince giving them leeway and Hardy leeway, like he did with Jericho, and those guys certainly deserve it. They've those are Attitude Era superstars who have lived through it all and persevered more than a decade later, almost 2 decades really, and are still so important to the wrestling scene.
I don't think we're going to see the Young Bucks in WWE anytime soon, nor do I think we should, because they're in the perfect spot right now. Personally, selfishly as a fan, I don't want to see it because being the Elite is still my favorite thing to watch on YouTube. They just had a new episode drop this morning, and I watched it, of course, before I came here. So I don't want to see them leave, and I don't think they will anytime soon because they have, and I think less so because of what you were talking about, more so because they have the freedom right now. Being the Elite is shot and edited by them and only them, and involves the cast. They get to make money all over the world.
They book themselves.
Yep.
I mean, that's maybe the most important.
And it sounds like them and Cody Rhodes are going to book a 10,000 seat arena and fund it themselves, or at least Cody's going to fund it himself. I didn't read the whole article on the Cody Rhodes thing, but they're in the perfect spot. They're superstars in the wrestling world. Wrestling fans, when they're at Hot Topic to do signing, or they're doing meet and greets before a show, and they show the videos on Being the Elite, the lines are incredible. They're making bank right now. If they leave to WWE has to break the bank for them, because there's no way that a regular contract for someone of their caliber coming out would be enough to usurp what they're making. And this is just based on stuff that I've read, I don't know them. I don't have intimate knowledge. I'm just a fan, but this is based on stuff I've read. It sounds like they're doing very well for themselves, and it'd be it would take a lot for them to leave. So I don't think we'll see them go to WWE anytime soon.
I think one of the stories of the year is the Bullet Club shirts being at Hot Topic. That is such a huge deal. That is unbelievable.
I've purchased multiple shirts of theirs from Hot Topic.
For a non-WWE wrestling company, and these guys do it themselves. Is that right? I mean, it's not. Is it? At least the article in Rolling Stone made it seem that it was more like the Young Bucks doing this more so than a New Japan connection with Hot Topic.
Pretty much, they kind of do their own stuff through ProWrestlingTees.com and Hot Topic, and those things sell out like hotcakes at Hot Topic.
They are the new NWO or Austin 316 shirts. Like that's how that's what a big deal they are. They are. I would love to see a number breakdown and differential between some of the top shirts that WWE has over the last year. Now WWE typically will change their shirts more often, or it might be a few months, I wonder where they match up with Cena.
But the thing is if you go on their actual website, the ProWrestlingTees.com website of the Young Bucks, of Kenny Omega, of Marty Scurll, of Cody Rhodes, they have so many shirts. They crank out a lot of shirts too.
Well, they'll do one just because of somebody tweeted something at them that they think it's funny. They'll turn into a shirt.
That all makes money.
No, I think it's great.
But they do have I was going to call them New World Order. Holy cow! The Bullet Club. You see the shirts all the time. They have the Young Bucks one.
Everyone has their own.
The Villain Club. The Kenny Omega with
Hangman.
The Terminator. It's just
and
you see them littered throughout WWE pay-per-views all the time. They're definitely the new NWO, as I almost called them, New World Order.
Yeah. It's at this point, especially without Cena, you almost see it as much as. I mean, do you think you see Bullet Club shirts as much as any other shirt right now
on TV? Oh yeah, absolutely.
And it's. I mean, they're just littered in the audience. So it's pretty awesome to see. And I think that in terms of self promotion, I don't know who is better than the Young Bucks.
Nobody, honestly, because I don't really watch New Japan. I don't watch too much Ring of Honor. The outside of WWE that I watch is mainly Defiant, which was formerly WCPW, which that's where I see a lot of them. But I know all about them because of being the Elite and because of the internet. And they've won me over because of that. So their self-promotion is incredible. I think they might be, them and the whole Bullet Club might be the best at self-promoting and marketing outside of the WWE machine itself.
Yeah, I think it's hard to put anyone above them, at least at the moment, for what they're doing. And I think it only grows from here. You said, and they mentioned it in the Rolling Stone article, which I really suggest that people go take a listen to it. It's only 2 or 3 weeks old, but it really is a great read, and it is like you get the whole interview. It's a question, and each Nick and Matt will both answer each question and kind of go back and forth. And they kind of they discuss about all the things that we're mentioning here, and go in depth about what was important to them after TNA, after they felt like they were kind of bamboozled, and they wanted to wrestle with each other. They wanted to be the top tag team. They wanted to go travel the world, and eventually they did it and made money, and even had money to help their families. And now that they're at their apex, and they're not slowing down anytime soon. And that apex could go for quite a while. And suppose they do get a 10,000 seat arena. You and I are at least hoping for it's not gonna be Milwaukee. So we're really hoping for Chicago, because that would be so cool.
And Chicago's definitely a possibility, because that's a huge wrestling city. So
it really
fingers
is.
Crossed.
Yeah. So that's the hope, and that's the start to something huge.
Absolutely.
I mean, you sell tickets to that and make it a pay-per-view, or I'd love for them to do a YouTube streaming or something like that, to get more of their stuff out there, just like on the initial one, and then start charging $10 or whatever it might be through different streaming services, however they want to do it. I think that would be just absolutely killer. So I'm still holding out hope for that. We got a lot of stuff to get to, though. We got 40 minutes left in the show. We want to make sure we save the last 25 to 30 minutes for the matches of 2017, which is of course our main event. Some other things that happened this week that we want to mention. We talked last week about the 2 sets of female trios and whether that lazy booking. If you want to hear more about that, a lot of the stuff that we mentioned, and they go into much greater detail on Bleacher Report. So check out that. The article is Absolution versus Riot Squad: What WWE is doing right and wrong with these stables. And it's a lot of stuff we mentioned. It's a goth or punk-ish leader, the foxy blonde, and then kind of like the powerhouse. And it just seemed very weird to do it at the same time. But we are happy that it's going to do all sorts of new rivalries and matches that we haven't seen before, and get a really good look at Sarah Logan and Liv Morgan. Right? Am I get that?
Yep.
Okay.
Sarah Logan.
Because
She's awesome.
we haven't seen too much, especially of Sarah Logan. I've seen quite a bit of Liv Morgan, but nothing substantial. Nothing too great.
Can I just say regarding the trios of women, the trio on Raw, I didn't like them 2 weeks ago. Last week on Raw, they won me over. The segment with Foxy, what's her name? Alicia Fox, excuse me, was awesome with Paige doing the "I love you, you're my best friend, I'm not gonna hurt you, I promise I'm not gonna hurt you," but these two, and then they beat her down. That was great. That segment won me over, and I'm a huge Paige fan. I'm so happy that she's back. At first, the trio still does. It's still a weird combination to me, but I like it now.
And I actually enjoyed the Riot Squad too, but once again, it was very similar and familiar between one night and the next. But Ruby Riot's really solid on the microphone, and I enjoyed their promo with the three in the room, whoever it was that they circled, but it was good. So while it did seem lazy and it was very similar, they weren't bad segments, which I think is really important. Jason Jordan versus Roman Reigns, really, really good match. I mean, you're not gonna find it on anybody's list here for best of 2017, but in terms of Raw over the last year, this if there was like a best of Raw and it was like a lengthy DVD, this match would be on it. That was a really good match.
Jason Jordan's starting to win me over. If I'm not mistaken, it's a slow burn to a heel turn.
Absolutely.
And I think it's going to be great. The story that Jason Jordan, say what you want about the Kurt Angle son storyline. Jason Jordan in the ring, incredible. The story he can tell in the ring, every time he stepped in the ring, it's been, I don't like the storyline, but I watched that match and
that's
he
where
won
he shines,
me over.
Yeah.
He won me over in that match against Roman Reigns, to the point where I was mad at Roman Reigns for Superman punching him because he saved him after Samoa Joe came down and put him in the coquina clutch. Yeah. Which is exactly what I don't know if that's what they wanted, but that's what they got from me. So he won me over. I'm looking forward to seeing what he does, and I'd love to see him end up in the ring with his father, or hopefully soon to be no longer his father, Kurt Angle. But he's winning me over, and the way he's being kind of whiny about things backstage, but still playing the face in the ring is a nice little, I like it because he's starting to get on my nerves a little bit as far as his attitude. He's starting to be more heel, less face, and whining, "Dad, give me another shot. Even though he already lost, give me another shot." It's like, no, you don't get to just do that.
He's playing it up really well. And actually the last couple weeks of the, like you said, slow burn on the heel turn is seemingly what we're getting. And he's done a great job. I've never been a fan of the Jason Jordan character, even from NXT and some of his old tag teams. I was never sold. I know he's a great wrestler, and that's never changed. He's only gotten better. He's only going to get better. And he's playing it really well right now. And it's kind of the whiny, "Dad, help me with this and that." I love it. I think it's really great. So kudos to Jason Jordan. The character is getting much better, especially these last few weeks. And the opening match with him and Reigns was awesome. Really good way. And when you start off a Raw that way, it really helped with the rest of the matches too. Nothing was terrible. If you actually look at the Bleacher Report gradings, only one match or segment got a C, and everything else was a B or B plus, and even an A. And that match to me was the highlight of the show. It's not like it was like all downhill, obviously, with the woken Matt Hardy, but that's a great way to start a show. And you go with a worker like that, it was very entertaining, and I encourage people to watch that match. With the angle with Kurt Angle and Jason Jordan, it's interesting timing right now. Is it going to go to WrestleMania because there's only 2 pay-per-views left before WrestleMania for Raw, which it seems like longer, but that's where we're at right now. You've got Royal Rumble, which is a big 4 combination, Raw and SmackDown, and then February 25th is Elimination Chamber. So either all signs are pointing to Triple H and Kurt Angle at some point, And it's the question is, signs are also pointed towards Angle and Jordan. So I wonder exactly how the breakdown's going to go between Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, and Mania, where we get Angle at Triple H, where we get Angle at Jason Jordan, and what falls in between there. Or is there a rematch involved?
Yeah, and if you're talking Triple H in the mix, Triple H has got to, it would make sense. Maybe they don't and they just drop it, but he's got to have a match at some point with Braun Strowman based on what happened with Survivor Series. So it'll be interesting to see where they put all that. I would imagine, I don't know. Jordan Angle at Mania, I guess. I like that's what I want, because I like the long drawn out storylines that they've been doing more of now, but they don't do all that much of. And I'd like to see that stretched out.
And those two in the ring, those two in the ring
right.
should be. I'm hoping that it's Mania, or it's before then, and then also at Mania. So much of the online stuff is pointing to Triple H and Kurt Angle on a more immediate basis with Royal Rumble, and only time will tell. So that's the last big four until we get to WrestleMania. All right, moving on. Some of the other stuff that we read on the internet this week. The Usos and the New Day, are they a problem for SmackDown in the tag team division? This is another Bleacher Report article. This one's by Eric Beeston. This one came out earlier this week. I believe it was Monday. And I guess their thing is that with these two on top, that it's too hard to work other people in. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't
agree with it.
I think it's a great thing, and I think when you suppose the Bludgeon Brothers continue their push, you put Usos with them or New Day with them, and then you have Breeze Dangle against the New Day, which would be hilarious. I think that would be a lot of fun. And then I know the Revival will come back at some point and will be on Raw, but how good would the Revival versus the Usos or the New Day on SmackDown be? I'm after watching some of the matches of the year for 2017, I was like, oh my God, the Revival, they've got to be back at some point. My hope is that I want to see the Revival on SmackDown. I think they fit in better there. I think that makes more sense. I want to see those rivalries with the Revival against Usos and New Day.
Oh my gosh.
Because you can just rotate. I have no problem with it. So
here's a question. Do you want to see, and do you think Sammy and Kevin Owens will wrestle for the tag team titles at some point?
Another thing that I want, and that's something I've been clamoring for since they were feuding together.
Benjamin, too.
Yeah, and no, so I think I actually that's why I disagree with this article, and I wanted to bring it up. I don't see it as a problem for SmackDown. I see it as a good problem to have. It's like the team that has 6 caliber starters, but one's got to come off the bench. I don't for basketball, I don't see that as a bad problem. I see that as a good problem. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Another article we read this week was about Finn Balor and WWE using him improperly, in that they need to use him as the demon all the time. So this is a GameSpot article. One of their points of contention here is that the Finn Balor demon character is booked so much better, but even in the video game, he has a higher rating by maybe like a 92 to 90 or 92 difference to 88 or 89. So it's a 3 or 4 point overall difference. I'm a video game nerd. I think we all are, and wrestling fans. Like it all just comes together. I like that they do the demon when they do it. I think it's fine at special times. It's fine if it's only at pay-per-views. I wish they would have protected it a little bit more. I think does he have one loss as the demon? If I'm not mistaken, we'll have to go back and check. But anyway, I'm fine with the way the demon is. I don't think he has to be the demon all the time.
Yeah, and in storyline, it wouldn't make sense because of the energy it takes to summon that part of him would be too much for him to handle. So it makes sense, and I disagree with the article. I think having the two characters in one is really cool. It's really entertaining, because a win against Finn Balor without the face paint isn't the same as a win against the demon Finn Balor, and a win for, you know what I mean? I like it.
Yeah,
and you can. As you know, I'm going to say you can involve him in a Matt Hardy feud at some point.
Some of the parts I did agree with in the article, though, are about the misuse of regular Finn Balor, or stupid sexy Finn, as Zach Wagner, contributor to the show, continues to call him, which I love. Because they put him in some weird spots and rivalries, losing to guys, or like the Kane situation, or I guess what they're trying to say is that they want to see Balor in against Strowman. They want to see Balor against Lesnar. They want to see Balor against the top guys. They want to see Balor against maybe Joe again or whatever it might be. That, that's Lesnar. Yeah. And I think that's what they're trying to say is that there's more you can do. But yeah, and then that's another thing is that apparently Vince McMahon, do you think has soured on him? He was the original Universal Champion. Now is kind of... He's in between. I mean, he's above mid-card, but he's not main event. There's not what we had originally thought. Of course, you can only have one top heel and one top face at a time for the most part, but where's the best spot for Balor right now?
The best spot for him? SmackDown. But
okay, that was the best answer. Yes, that is correct.
But I don't know how much you can read into the whole Vince is souring on him, because that's just dirt sheet talk, or I don't know if they're called dirt sheets anymore. Internet website.
Dirty pages.
Something like that.
Dirt sites.
We got to see what happens. We got to see what he's going to do for Royal Rumble. To me, him losing to Kane was more so of Kane building Kane up for Braun or for someone else.
Looks like we've got a caller here on the 103.5 hotline. Caller, how's it going?
Your side.
Do we got Vince McMahon on the line?
Pronouns, pal. Ben Wong, do we have you on the show right now?
You do.
All right, we're bringing in Ben Wong to the show. Thanks for being with us, Ben Wong. Ben Wong, we're talking about the booking of Finn Balor right now and how he was originally, the first Universal Champion, unfortunately suffered the injury during that match, and he's never really quite got his footing back to what we know. Of course, seeing him versus Styles was a great match, but where are you a fan of what they've done with Balor right now?
I am not, but I don't know what they really could have done better if they weren't planning on running him as the top guy. I think that after he won the Universal title, if Brock was going to be in the picture again, Brock was going to get the title back. So that's how I feel about it.
So only time will tell with Finn Balor, but I hope he gets a bigger push between now and Mania, and I imagine they're gonna set him up right. But I really would love to see him versus Lesnar at some point. I think they kind of missed the boat with Bryan and Lesnar, and hopefully they don't miss the boat on this one as well. Well, I tell you what, let's talk about our best matches of 2017, shall we? This is kind of our main event of the show. Ben Wong, do you have your list in front of you, or should I read it off?
I do not have my list in front of me, but I have it pretty much memorized.
Okay, we're going to go with your matches of the year. You gave us 10 matches, and we gave everyone the same criteria. Give us two lists. One that is any match in 2017 that happened, anywhere, any wrestling organization, federation, local promotion, whatever it might be, whether it's Brew City Wrestling, Rocky Mountain Pro, New Japan, Defiant, or it doesn't matter. Anywhere it could have happened. And the other list is only under the WWE umbrella. That includes NXT, Raw, SmackDown, the pay-per-views, whatever it might be, UK tournament, the women's tournament, all that good stuff. So Ben Wong has given us his. We're gonna go with your top 5 here, and then we'll talk a little bit about the full top 10. But at number 5, you have Ibushi versus Tanahashi. At number 4, you have Omega versus Suzuki. At number 3, you have Okada versus Shibata, which is absolutely delicious. Number 2, you have Ibushi and Naito. That's from the G1 and the Day 1 G1. And then number 1, you have the Okada Omega trilogy. So Ben Wong, you put those in together, which is perfectly fine. I like that. This is all New Japan. Can you give us an idea of why no WWE matches made your top 5 or even your top 10 as I look through?
New Japan, to me, I'm just a huge fan ever since I saw Wrestle Kingdom 9, and their wrestling is just so good. I enjoy watching. All of my best matches were singles matches, and I just really enjoy their hard-hitting storytelling, and the fact that they are able to use more wrestling moves than WWE wrestlers to put on good shows.
Certainly a big deal has to do with length, and the length of matches that the New Japan performers can put on is much greater than WWE. You're shaking your head.
I agree with Ben Wong. I don't watch a whole lot of New Japan, but every time I watch them, they clearly have the best in-ring performers. Not performers. They have the best in-ring product probably in the world. And length is a part of it, but I don't think a match has to be long to be good. That's all. That's the only reason I was shaking my head. But I agree with almost everything else.
No. Sure. Why? Enlighten us a little bit more about that. What can be good about a short match?
Short, I don't mean like 5 minutes. I mean, 20 minutes is a short match to me.
Just a reference, we have a few other top 5 and top 10 lists. Christian, contributor to the show, put Goldberg and Lesnar from WrestleMania, which was under a 5-minute match, as I believe number 2 on his list.
Well, to me, I look at 20 minutes as a short match. So if other people look at 20 minutes as a long match, then then it's going to be a different point. But 20 minutes is a short match, and I think that great stories can be told in 20 minutes. To me, a long match is 40 minutes. But to some people, 20 minutes might be a long match, and 5 minutes might be a short match, in which case 5 minutes is not enough time. Unless it's a specific story, it's not enough time to tell it. So I guess it's subjective. Is that the right word? Yeah.
Okay, so question for both of you guys. We've heard Kevin Nash and Scott Hall say things like this when it came to WCW versus WWF in the 90s. WCW was a television company putting on a wrestling show, whereas WWF was a wrestling company putting on a television show. Now it seems to me, if you're going to match up New Japan versus WWE, the roles are reversed. That New Japan they're a wrestling company. It is about the wrestlers and not like making them look like comic book heroes, but making the in-ring product the most important part of it. They don't break to commercial, as far as I know, Ben Wong, during matches. Is that correct?
Of their events, their pay-per-views, no, they do not break into commercials. But if you're watching on Access TV, they put in commercial breaks into the matches.
Okay, and then for WWE though, like if you're watching on Raw, I don't know what happened for 3.5 minutes during a match, and sometimes that really hurts the pacing.
I hate that,
and it really, and it's something we didn't see that much in the Attitude Era, like in the late '90s, early 2000s, and then it's something they have done in years past. They've kind of gone back and forth, but I really despise that. To me, a main event is not a main event if you're breaking for commercials. It frustrates the heck out of me, and I really can't stand it. But when it comes to the idea that WWE is a entertainment or television company now, as opposed to New Japan being about the wrestling, is that hitting the nail on the head, or where do you guys stand on this argument between the two, and why New Japan? And when you look at everyone's list that we got Sam, we've got Zach, Christian, Ben Wong, you and I. New Japan is really littered in these lists, and in terms of in-ring product, it's hard to argue that New Japan is far superior.
I don't even watch that much New Japan. I probably watch maybe 5 to 10 matches a year. And this year I probably only watched 3 or 4 New Japan matches. But I still have, we'll get to my list, but I still have New Japan matches on my list, even though I don't watch them that much. And even though I don't watch them that much, I still see the incredible in-ring ability of their performers. And they do have a little more freedom than WWE, which is part of why I like Defiant too, is they have freedom to do things. In my list is going to have a lot of WCPW matches because that's what I watch, or excuse me, Defiant, but they were WCPW. And there's a lot of pile drivers. There's a lot of moves you don't get to see on WWE. So I definitely agree that, yeah, New Japan is probably the best in-ring product.
And Ben Wong, is that why New Japan is so much better? Because they are about the wrestling as opposed to the entertainment and selling headbands to children, which isn't wrong. It's understandable. You got a wider demographic for WWE and more people to sell to. But New Japan is very much, they've done a great job of just hitting their market, which is their, at least from our perspective, the United States, like hardcore internet smarks.
Yes, but I don't know if I would say that New Japan isn't about marketing and selling headbands to children. If you if you kind of look at some of their tag teams, they have some pretty out there merchandising. I mean, if you look at the Young Bucks, they put out the cease and desist too sweet sensors and all that other stuff. Rocky Romero was rocking an eye patch for a while, even though he didn't need to, and I believe he was selling those on ProWrestlingTees.com for a while.
Does he kayfabe know that he's not a pirate?
I'm not sure. You might have to ask him about that one.
Okay, I'll get right on Twitter there. For all of us on the matches of 2017, Omega Okada is all over this. You grouped it in as to one trilogy and put it as your number one with Ibushi and Naito at number 2. If you had to list those 3 matches in order, are you gonna go in order that they were? I personally think that I would go with, and Zach and I think Sam both agreed with me on this, that Omega Okada 2 was my favorite, Omega Okada 1 was my second favorite, and then Omega Okada 3 would be third. A more distance between that one and second place, but I think there was so much buildup, and it was still a great match. And had those first 2 matches not happened, who knows what, if my brain hadn't already had it set on what it was going to be. It was much more fast-paced, but it was still a great match. But where do you rank the 3 Omega Okada matches from 2017?
I am completely with you in the order that you listed them in. The reason why I grouped them together was because it was all telling the same story in the match. And that story was, if Omega can hit the one-winged angel, Okada's going to be in trouble. So that was a story they kind of tied in through the 3 matches, and that's why I grouped them in as one.
No, and I think that's totally fair. It's hard to think of just one without the others. They are so important. It is such an important trio, and this is going to go down as one of the best rivalries of all time. A few weeks ago, we, of course, talked about the Montreal Screwjob, which is likely the best rivalry of all time. But this Omega Okada is going to have something to say about that maybe when it's all said and done, because these two aren't done, I would say, wrestling each other all together, maybe just a pause in the current rivalry. Benoit, you also then, for your top 5 for WWE, you have Styles and Cena at 5. That's from Royal Rumble. You have Aleister Black and Velveteen Dream. Then you went with Nakamura and Rude from San Antonio. So that's 2 matches from the Royal Rumble weekend. Asuka and Ember Moon from Brooklyn, from NXT TakeOver Brooklyn 3, which was, if I'm not mistaken, the only women's match, at least that I've seen so far. I have not seen Chandler or Andre's lists yet, but I think that was the only women's match that got on any of the lists. And then number 1, you have Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne. That seemed to be a runaway for the best WWE match of the year. Andre, where do you sit on that?
For the best WWE match?
For Bate and Dunne, where did that get on your list?
On my list, it was number 3 on my list, but my list was a little bit more of what was my favorite as opposed to what I think is technically the best match. Because if it was just technically which one was the best match, I mean, you probably put Bate and Dunne, but they're my third on my list of matches because it's my third favorite of the matches that I've, going back and looking back on those matches. But I think part of that is because my number 1 is Velveteen Dream versus Aleister Black, and because maybe that's more recent, it's in my brain more.
It's hard not to pick matches that are more recent.
But
than
my number
going back
2
all the way
is all the way back to Royal Rumble with Styles Cena.
And Styles Cena, of all of us, it looks like that's the match, the main roster match that was the top for basically everyone. Yeah. It's hard to beat that one. That was the one that was a 5-star classic for even Meltzer.
It's the only one in my top 5 that's the main roster.
And that's the only main roster for basically everyone, if I'm not mistaken. Ben Wong had 4 NXT TakeOver matches before Styles and Cena. So, Ben Wong, you actually thought that Styles and Cena, while it was your favorite for a main roster match, you still put 4 NXT matches over that Styles Cena. Why is that?
It's the same thing that we were talking about with New Japan. I think that NXT, they give the wrestlers more time, and they're allowed to maybe do a little more stuff that they wouldn't be able to do on the main roster. And they put together better indie style. It's a hybrid between the WWE and an indie style matchup, in my opinion.
And
that's what NXT is.
Yeah, no, and if you look at anyone's list, there's a consistent theme really and a rhythm to this where
5 of my top 10 are takeover, or 5 of my top 10 are NXT matches, and 4 of my top 5 are NXT matches.
Let's see, 3 of Zach's top 5 were NXT. You have Bate and Dunn, Black versus Dream, Asuka and Ember Moon, and then 2 AJ Styles matches, Styles versus Cena, Styles versus Balor. Styles was the only person who was on my list at 3 different times, at least for WWE. So I've got Styles and Cena was my 3rd favorite match. It was really tough, and it is tough because January was so long ago of 2017. But I did put Aleister Black and Velveteen Dream in at number 2. Here's the thing: is like Styles Cena. There's so much behind that with story that it added to the in ring. And
it was like their 4th or 5th encounter,
which is fine, and they've continued to hit the bar and exceed it, and I think that's awesome, and it really does deserve to be match of the year in terms of a main roster match, and for a WWE pay-per-view, it really didn't get better than Styles and Cena. But I put Aleister Black versus Dream above that, and I don't know if it is because it's recent, and there was a great story along with that one too, but there isn't like the years behind that one, and it was
which is what
Styles
made it
and
so
Cena.
good, is they were able to, despite the lack of all that, they were able to make that story make you so into that story.
No, which is absolutely the right call. And if I'm not, do you have any cruiserweight matches on your list, Andre? Because Ben Wong and I think at least are the only 2 that put a cruiserweight matchup, and both of us have Aries versus Neville from the WrestleMania pre-show. This was number 10 for me, and Ben Wong looks like he had it at number 8 on his list. Did you have a cruiserweight match at all?
That was an honorable mention, along with New Day, Uso, SummerSlam, the Elimination Chamber, and Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns at Rumble, but they were not on my top 10.
Owens, Reigns, Rumble. See, I feel bad. I need to go back and watch that because that was.
There were too many matches. I had to do honorable matches.
Well, no, it's hard. It's really a hard thing to do. So, Ben Wong, what was it about Neville and Aries that got on your list for the Mania pre-show? And I actually had 2 pre-show matches coming in at number 9 and number 10. I had Usos and New Day from SummerSlam in at my number 9, and then Aries and Neville. But what about this Aries and Neville match that made it get on your list, Ben Wong?
If you look at where those 2 guys are in relationship to WWE now, I think you can kind of paint the story of they felt disrespected having to go on and open up the WrestleMania show. They didn't get the main part of the main show. It was pre-show, and they went out there and they hit hard, and they put on a pretty solid cruiserweight match.
And to give our fans an idea of kind of how WWE botched this one, not putting it on the actual card, this match didn't make it on the WrestleMania DVD, and Neville was furious, and apparently that was at least a piece of the pie that led to him walking out on Raw a few weeks ago, which is absolutely insane. You got to strike while the iron's hot, and with Neville, and he's a guy I think you should have held on to, and it was time to put him on the regular roster, facing regular guys, or I don't know, him and Miz I think could have put on a great program, put him in the IC division at least to get things going. But Neville has an unlimited ceiling, I thought, and he really showed that with his mic skills and heel turn over his run in the cruiserweight division. But Neville and Aries, certainly a great match. Ben Wong, you had AJ Styles on your list 2 times. Okay, here's what I want to get to for these last few minutes. We're going to get more into other people's lists, I think, next week when we have Chandler back, because there's just not enough time and kind of got a late start today as well. But based on everyone's lists, Ben Wong, it seems to me that it's clear that Omega, Okada, and AJ Styles are the 3 best wrestlers in the world right now. Do you agree with that? Why or why not?
Oh, man. I can't 100% agree with that.
And I feel like you're going to take out Styles for someone else.
No, the problem is I can't take out Styles for anybody else. However, because he has a special place in my heart, and he does his own stuff, and I respect him so much. Kota Ibushi he's up there too. He may be tied with. Oh God, I can't tie him with Omega.
So you just have a 4 instead of a 3.
Ibushi,
Sorry, what was that?
Ibushi appeared 2 times on your list, Ben Wong. He got the number 2 spot, Ibushi versus Naito, and then also the number 5 spot. So he actually made your list twice in the top 5. So yeah, you're big on Ibushi. I would love to see him come to WWE, but obviously he's in a great spot. He had that chance. He was in the Cruiserweight Classic, made it all the way to the Final 4, and just obviously not able to get a deal done to keep him there. But Ibushi is such a young guy. I think there's a future for that in the future down the road. But Ben Wong, you talked about Ibushi and how he does his own thing. He's in this weird wrestling company that does almost like Jackass. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why you like Ibushi so much and why you're willing to put him in that conversation for the best 3 or 4 wrestlers in the world as we speak?
I put him in there because he is so talented. He has gotten offers from all of the big companies, and he's pretty much turned them down to do what he wants, which is apparently this Jackass-style entertainment that is DDT Pro Wrestling in Japan, where he rides bikes into lakes doing flips and has matches in mud pits and shoots fireworks at himself, which is all just kind of crazy. But from what I hear, he's a pretty crazy guy, so it all fits together.
And going back to some of Ben Wong's matches, he's got number 6 at Styles and Balor from TLC. This was sort of a throw together, but we're lucky that it happened. And you've got this one right behind Styles and Cena at the number 6 spot. How important was this match to finally see Balor and Styles face off on a WWE pay-per-view?
It was a smart gift from Vince McMahon, and I was more than willing to take it, seeing as AJ is one of the best performers in the world. Finn is pretty damn good as well. And seeing them get time to, put on a match on the main stage at WWE is always a good thing.
After that, Ben Wong, you've got DIY versus Authors of Pain and Revival at NXT Orlando. Was this one on your list too, Andre?
That is number 4 on my list.
That was an amazing match. I'm a big fan of that. Then Ben Wong has Neville versus Aries. The Elimination Chamber match, which showed up on Christian's list as well. Did you get that one in there?
That's one of my 1, 2, 3, 4 honorable mentions, yes.
And Ben Wong, you ended with the War Games, NXT War Games, which appeared on a few people's lists.
That's number 5 on my list.
So 5 for you, 10 for Ben Wong. Christian had number 9 on his list. And so it appeared 3 times. Like I said, we haven't talked to Chandler quite yet about his picks.
Who's appeared most on?
That's the thing. That's why I wanted to say that I think Omega, Okada, and Styles appear on the list more times than anyone else, and that's why I was willing to put them as what we would say the best 3 wrestlers right now.
I have a question for either you or Ben Wong, because my list is a little different. But the person that shows up on the most on either of my 2 lists shows up number 5 times. My second list, I didn't include WWE because I wanted to have 2 separate lists. But the second list, Will Ospreay appears 5 times on that list. I want to know what you guys think about Will Ospreay.
Ben Wong, you can go first.
I think Will Ospreay is a pretty good talent, and I think he's learning a lot in New Japan, and specifically under Okada and Gato's, wing in the Chaos stable. He's been traveling the world, doing lots of shows outside of New Japan and outside of America still.
Which is where I've seen him.
I haven't tuned into too many of his matches, but from what I've seen in New Japan, he's been doing great, and I am very excited for the 4-way Super Junior match at Wrestle Kingdom.
Okay, so here's what I think about Will Ospreay. He was given kind of like the keys to the castle, and a lot of people were freaking out about the match with him against Ricochet last year, and it actually won my internet match of the year for 2016. I still think it's very spot heavy and it doesn't always make sense. I've seen some things on Ring of Honor where I'm like, I get a little bit bothered by his matches. But here's what I'll say about Will Ospreay. He's 24 years old. And I like to think about him the way I think about when the Brewers have a really good prospect when they bring up. He's not going to be perfect. He's going to do some things really well, and you know that the future is him being a superstar, and he's going to be amazing. And that's where I'm at right now. Is like he shows that he has all the tools, all the talents, and he's going to be awesome. I don't think he's there yet, but I don't want to mean that in like a disparaging way. I think that he is going to be awesome. I don't think he's there yet, but he is lucky to have. I mean, he has these physical gifts and talents that he's learning how to use in the right way, in the ways that make sense in a match, and he's only going to get better. So that's where I think Will Ospreay is maybe he's like Shohei Ohtani, the Japanese pitcher who's coming over. Is like, he does all these great things, but we have to see it all together.
So like a young Giannis and
a young Giannis, yeah. I think that all the tools are there, and he's just figuring out how to use them and when, as opposed to just like doing 7 backflips or whatever it might be. But I think he's on the cusp of being great, and I don't mean that to be a negative at him. I think that he maybe just had the spotlight on him a little bit too early, but he's doing all the things he should be doing, and I think that it's going to culminate in being down the road one of the best that we have. And at 24 years old, my goodness, not many people have a brighter future than Will Ospreay does at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll see more on him over the next year, but I'm excited for his future. We'll see what happens. I wouldn't mind seeing him in the cruiserweight division if the WWE booked their cruiserweights better, but that's not the case at the moment. As we said, only one cruiserweight match was listed between anybody. But at the same time, though, Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne are both technically cruiserweights, and that was not a cruiserweight match. It was the rematch for the UK title. But that was, that's a tough match to beat, really, on the WWE side. What was your highest WWE match?
My highest WWE match was Velveteen Dream versus Aleister Black.
And it's hard to argue with that one. I loved that match so much.
Yeah, but I have New Day on there a couple times, Styles on there 3 times.
Yeah, why don't you list off give us your list for WWE?
Number 10 is Brock, Braun, Roman, and Joe at SummerSlam. Number 9 is Cien Almas versus McIntyre at War Games. 8 is the New Day and the Usos Hell in a Cell. 7 is Styles versus Balor, TLC. 6 is Styles versus Brock, Survivor Series. 5, War Games. 4, Author of Pain, DIY, TakeOver Chicago. 3, Bate versus Dunn, TakeOver Chicago. 2, Styles, Cena, Rumble. And number 1, Velveteen Dream versus Aleister Black.
And for me, I had the Usos and the New Day on there twice. I actually had them at number 4 for their Hell in a Cell match, and then also at number 9 on the Survivor Series pre-show. I also put Okada Shibata at number 10 for me, Okada Suzuki, and I mean the funny thing is I probably only saw 5 or 6 Okada matches in 2017.
Oh, this is you were
no,
I'm
going both. Yeah,
okay.
I switched there. But holy cow, Ben Wong is Okada the best wrestler in the world right now?
I have to say Omega probably is, but Okada is doing great things, and considering that he's a champion that is going around to other territories and having matches with their best wrestlers, I think that's amazing. It's such a throwback. He's like Ric Flair, man. He's Ric Flair right now, back in the NWA days, traveling with this big old title.
Is there a bigger compliment that you can give a wrestler in today's wrestling landscape than he's the Ric Flair of the NWA era?
I don't think you can.
So there you have it, Kenny Omega. And
you just made my day hearing you say that you think hearing you say you think Kenny Omega is the best in the world made my day, because even though I don't watch much New Japan, I'm a huge Kenny Omega fan. So thank you, Ben.
And Kenny Omega, to me.
Hey Andre, I got a question for you, buddy.
Here we go. I know what this is going.
I noticed that a wrestler was kind of missing from your top list, and you've been such a big fan of him, and I'm surprised that none of his matches made your list.
Are you talking about one Jinder Mahal?
Oh yeah, I'm definitely talking about one Jinder Mahal.
Wrestling, there's a lot of ways to tell a story, and you don't I don't know. There's characters that I thoroughly enjoy that aren't necessarily the greatest in-ring performers in the world. So no Jinder Mahal matches were on there, but I'm still a huge Jinder Mahal fan. He's not my favorite, but he's one of my favorites. And no, he's not at a level of an Omega or an AJ Styles or anything like that. So
But
that's
you're admitting that he is not the greatest wrestler.
No, I never claimed he was. I'm just a huge fan of him.
And you're admitting he may not even be that good of a wrestler.
He's a good wrestler, but he's not great. We'll put it that way. But I'm still a huge fan. But yeah, no, he's not in the class of an Omega or Styles. But I never claimed that at all. I'm just a huge fan of his, and I loved his title run.
Ben Wong, you had Jinder Mahal in your top 3 spots. No, I'm just kidding. No, and the Jinder Mahal thing is an interesting case. We're gonna get more on that next week, though. It's 1:00. We got to wrap up the show. Sorry if you tuned in for the Jazz Train and missed it, but we've got real reviews coming up next. Ben Wong, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. We hope to have you more again over the next few weeks, where we're going to do our Schmozzy Awards. We're going to talk more about these lists. We're going to get Chandler back in the studio. All sorts of stuff to cover over the next few weeks. And, of course, Night of Champions next Sunday night. So lots to talk about. So, Ben Wong, thanks again for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, we'll catch you next time. Thank you all for listening to the Schmozcast Men in Tights right here on 103.5 The Sun, WLSP LP, Wisconsin.